Welcome to the Veil Between Lives, a sanctuary where lived experience meets the great mystery. Here we hold soulful conversations with those that have touched the unseen and what lies beyond the physical world. We're honored you're here stepping into this space with us. I'm Susan, and joined by my co-host, Em. Hi, Em. And our super wonderful special guest today, a warm welcome to Laura Rose, who's an intuitive channel, author, spiritual medium, and Reiki master. She helps others clear energy blocks, deepen intuition, and reconnect with their true selves through workshops and personal sessions. As the founder of Sacred Soul, she shares heart-centered teachings with a global community of 140,000 plus, and is the author of Shift Your Energy, Shift Your Life, which will be released in November 2026. Welcome to the show, Laura. We're so excited to have you here and talk to you today.
I am grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I wonder if we could start off the conversation today sharing a little bit with our listeners what life was like before your spiritual awakening.
So, I was a hot mess before my spiritual awakening. I am always so grateful that my awakening happened. If you looked at my life on paper, it looked just like it's supposed to. I went to high school, got good grades, went to college, and graduated with a master's in a science-based degree. And then I went and got a job and had this amazing career and got married and had a beautiful house and did all these things. But the truth was, I was deeply, deeply unhappy. I was really struggling with just depression, anxiety. I didn't want to be on the planet anymore. And this had started probably when I was 12 or 13 years old. And by the time my awakening happened when I was 39, that was a lot of suffering for a lot of years. By the time I had my awakening, my body was in so much pain because I now know that your energy, it starts as an energy and then it moves into the physical when we don't know that we're holding on to, and it starts to impact our body. So by the time I had my awakening, I could hardly move. I would drag my legs in and out of my car because I couldn't hardly bend them. I was in tremendous pain, emotional pain. And when I had my awakening, it was like you cue the angels singing, or it was just like all of a sudden I understood what was going on, and that just created huge shifts in my life. So that's what it was like before. Lots of drinking, lots of just trying to get through the day.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Was there a particular catalyst or pivot point that brought on this sudden change or this awakening?
The awakening, yeah. I had a friend give me a business card, and the card was for an energy healer, and it said that she could help with depression, anxiety. I had absolutely no clue what Reiki or energy work was, or chakras, or anything. No clue. But she said she can help with depression and anxiety, and I said, okay, sign me up. So I went, and I mean, I laugh about it. I had no clue. I had absolutely no idea what it was. I thought it was like a massage. So I had shaved my legs and did everything that you're supposed to. I was trying to be like, okay, I'm going to be polite and get a massage. And I get there, and this amazing woman walks in. She doesn't even touch me. She just holds her hands out. She's not even introduced herself yet. She just comes in, and it was like a door opened in my body, and all of this energy that I've been holding on my entire life came screaming out of me. And of course, I had no idea. It was wild. I just was like, I don't understand what's happening. And then all these emotions started pouring out. And of course, she was able to feel it too. And we looked at each other and we're both sobbing. And she goes, "Oh, honey, you don't have to feel this bad." And then that is what became this pivotal moment of, I don't have to feel this bad. Are you kidding? And she was such a lovely woman. She became a mentor, started teaching me, and she retired not long after that, and then started sending her people to me. So she was just, you have no idea. I was so grateful for her.
I'm curious. Um, what, if any, intuitive gifts did you have before your awakening? Did you get amplified by this, or did you already kind of have an inkling or a feeling that you had some things inside?
So when I was in elementary, school through college, I would have these experiences where I would know the teacher was about to call on me, or I would know if I remember one time my dad had this big surprise for us, and I knew we were going to the zoo. I had no idea, he was just picking us up. And I just knew it. And college, of course, this is, back in the day before cell phones. I would know when somebody was about to call me. And so I'd head to my dorm room and I'd unlock the door and the phone would be ringing and I would know. But then I found alcohol. And alcohol
Mm.
completely shuts down intuition. And because of all the pain, I grew up in domestic violence and child abuse, and I just was carrying so much. And as a healer, we absorb all sorts of things too. So I was not only carrying my own stuff, I was carrying the trauma of my parents and everybody and their brother. So alcohol was this lovely way, especially someone who was very introverted, to come out of her shell. And so for decades, I drank pretty heavily. And when I say that, I mean like a 12 pack a night or 3 or 4 bottles of wine. So when I had my awakening, I still was really struggling with alcohol. But I found that as I continued to move my vibration up, the vibration of alcohol was such a mismatch that over time I no longer felt this call especially to drink like I was. So when that happened, more and more of those intuitive abilities started firing on. The first one was clairsentience, I was very clearly clairsentient. And then over the course of working with people and working on myself, all the others started to fire on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's not an uncommon story for people, to want to try and turn this off or tune this out through whatever means possible sometimes, just because, maybe they fear being accepted or don't really know how to communicate it, what's going on. I mean, it's it can be difficult to find words to explain what's happening when you're having these knowings or these mystical experiences, and you can't just pop off with, did you see that apparition? Hey, by the way, did you know that, this was coming? Oh, I did, surely. So, I like that you are open and honest about that part of the journey, because I mean, I know for myself that was part of my way of coping for a while too, because I had been told not to share those things. And you know it's an easy way to kind of push them away, because like you said, when you're participating in mind altering substances, whatever they might be, it does suppress that intuition.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, it absolutely does. What's funny is when I finally had my awakening, I really did not believe I was intuitive at all, not even a smidge. I kind of just thought I was just really tuned into those people, like the person who was calling me, but it never dawned on me that I was intuitive. And I remember having my awakening and starting to meditate and listen to meditations that were like, connect to your spirit guides and kick on your third eye. It took me quite a while to understand how my
Huh.
intuition was working. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
and so when I started to understand it, it was actually during, learning how to do energy work. I had the person that, did my first session, she decided to run a class, and so she was running this class, and of course, she can feel all that's going on, and she was teaching me, "Okay, when you connect to that person, can you feel now their energy?" And I'm like, "Holy smokes, I can." So for several years doing this business that I'm doing, I was really leaning on that clairsentience. And then as things started firing on, the clairvoyance, the vision started coming in, the clairaudience, so the claircognizance, all the things started coming on, and it's been the coolest. And of course, my awakening was only 7 years ago. So to
Oh,
have all these things firing on over 7 years has been the coolest thing ever. It's been so fun.
I'm so glad you're able to embrace it because some people, it freaks them out, right? And it can go one of two ways.
Yes,
It can point them in the direction of let me follow these breadcrumbs and keep an open mind. Um, Actually, 3 different directions. Some people try to absorb so much so fast that it can actually blow out the circuits, right? It can be
uh,
too much for the system to handle. And then there's, the people that are so freaked out about it that they try to just turn it off again, maybe through drugs and alcohol or by some
absolutely.
other means. So it's great that you were intuitive enough to be open-minded to keep exploring and just, kind of allow these
I
things
just
to
thought it was
unfold.
the coolest thing ever. I just was like, "This is amazing." And, and then the last couple of years, the clairvoyancy got stronger and stronger. And so to have, mediumship sessions where, guides I don't see, I hear and get their messages. And then, you know, when I'm doing a mediumship session and those so guides I hear over here and mediums, when it's someone's loved one, I see them on this side, and they'll come in, and I can tell, a client, I'm like, okay, so there's a person here, and this is how she's wearing her hair, and this is how she's dressed, and she's showing me this, and to have that person go, oh, that's my grandma, oh, it's the best. I
Oh,
just
wow.
love it so much.
Yes. Yes, that's fantastic. And do you support them through grief as well when they come to you? Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I went and got end of life doula training. I was guided to, but I was sitting there in the classes and I was told by my guides in the classes like learn but understand this is not how we're going to use it through you. And I was like, okay, and I was just staying open and then I started having this understanding. People are coming. They want to connect with their loved ones. However, they're still very much in grief and they have they have that grief energy and they're sobbing. And so part of the session many times is, okay, we got your loved one here, but let's work on your energy a bit. Let's take some of this that's so sharp and so painful and let's clear some of that away so that we can have a beautiful conversation with your loved one. So I feel very, very fortunate to be able to use several gifts to help clients. And then meanwhile, we might have guides that are sharing different bits of information as well. And that comes in wonderfully, especially if we have a loved one that someone really wants to connect with and they are not able to come through for whatever reason. The guides are able to step in and help us understand where their loved one is, what they've got going on, why they couldn't come in as clearly as we would like them to this time. And we can provide a lot of peace to clients too. And I feel like it's just a big group of us, even though I don't necessarily see the rest of them. It's just this big group of us supporting people that come in. And you can tell by my face, it brings me so much joy to do this.
Wow, I love it. That's beautiful.
So somebody came to you and they just, you know, like were struggling with grief or having a difficult time with separation here in the physical or somebody's passed over. What you just described is that, it can mean almost anything coming through.
It really can. I have had so many interesting sessions and I'm a Virgo, so early on in this, I wanted to plan all the things and I have learned not to plan anything. I've learned not to
Yeah.
write anything down. And, I see a lot of the same people over and over and over again. I don't write any notes. I just know that I'll be reminded of anything I need. But I've had sessions where someone wants me to work on their horse or their dog or their dog is nearing end of life. And so I might spend a session that's half of it on the dog and helping them to feel more comfortable, feeling where they're uncomfortable, sharing that with the owner so that the owner knows how to best support their animal as he or she's moving toward end of life. And
Mhm.
then at the same time, I've got a grieving owner. So then working on the owner's energy and channeling messages to them to help them understand um, that their loved one, their pet is doing fine, and they're where they're at in this process. I've had clients that have situations where they have a horse and they know this horse is struggling and they want me to work on the energy. And the last horse I worked on, he had so much sadness in his heart. So I've got my client, she's holding her horse. My clairsentience is all fired up and I am sobbing hysterically as I'm clearing this horse's energy, telling the client, it's okay. I promise I'm okay. But there's a lot here. There's a lot here and it is just pouring out of me in all the places. So we're going to work on that. And some of the most interesting sessions have been, and the first time this happened, I was in shock, but the most interesting sessions have been where I have a client whose loved one has advanced dementia. So their loved one is still alive, but is moving towards transition, has advanced dementia, and can't necessarily tell them what they want to know or how to best support them. And I have had their spirit self come through in session like someone who's passed over almost has come in and has helped guide me and their loved one on how to best support them as they're nearing end of life. The first time that happened, I was like, I have got to be making this up. And that but I was relaying it to the client. And she's like, nope, that's just like him to just barge into a session. That sounds just like him. That's exactly what he would do. And I'm like, okay. It was incredible. And to give her that piece where she's like, okay, now I understand what he needs, how to best help him. It was amazing. I've had that happen a few times since that first time. It's the coolest thing. It's just shows you how multidimensional we all really are from a soul level.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
that story. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually heard this before
Have
from
you?
other people. Yes, yeah, it's very interesting how that works. I don't know. How does the brain functioning and the physical body disconnect, you know what I mean, from spirit? Is it a lack of recognition from the own body, one's own self?
Yeah.
Because we are separate, right? Our spirit is separate from our body. But I don't know. It's very interesting. I'd like to look into that a little deeper.
I agree. I agree. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is evidently what we're doing. At the time, and what's interesting when people have fully transitioned, they come over on this side of me. Spirit guides are on this side. When they are still living, they come in over here. And so I'm just really grateful for the distinction that's going on when I'm, sitting and working on folks. But it was really interesting to have that happen. And again, I've had it happen multiple times, and I love that you've experienced that too, where you've heard that from people. Because at
Mhm.
first, I was really confused. I was like, I can't believe this. What's going on? And then I just said, roll with it. This is clearly someone who wants to be seen and heard. And I was sharing with the client and everything he was saying. She's like, yes, that's him. That's him. And he
Mm.
had sundowners. So he was calling her 30, 40 times a night, even though she may have spent the whole day with him. He was in memory care. And so he was blowing her up, and saying some really unkind things because in his mind, he hadn't seen her. Of course, it was heartbreaking to her because this is her love. So having him come in, and what was lovely is he came in and he was just like, I don't like how that guy's treating my woman.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I was just like, okay. And so I'm sharing this with her, and she's like, yes, that's exactly how he is. And I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't like it. And here is what he recommends that you do because he wants you to be safe and protected. And this isn't really him anymore. He's in some way has mostly moved out of this vessel as it's in process. And he wants to support you as much as you are supporting him. It was very
Mhm.
cool.
Wow. I've actually heard this also before about how dementia, they've already got one foot on the other side,
Mhm.
like for a while before they cross over. They're not fully here in this physical body. So that's really interesting. Wow.
That was the impression I had too, is that while still connected, and I've always seen it like a silver cord, still connected, but mostly out, it's uncomfortable. And it makes sense. And this is what they've shared. It's uncomfortable being this vessel that is so confused and hurt and angry or whatever the emotions are. It's uncomfortable. I would like to mostly be out of this. It makes sense. It would be uncomfortable. It would be really scary.
Yeah. With I'd love to talk about the
Yeah.
channeling that you
Mhm.
do. I'm so fascinated with channeling, and there's different perspectives on who or what's being channeled. Is it our higher self? Is it a higher a consciousness or a collective of a higher consciousness? And I think it probably shows up different for everyone, for different individuals differently. How does it show up for you? And who or what are you channeling?
Yeah, great question. So before any session, I set a lot of intentions and prayers and I don't want it to be just any old any old person can come in. I want it to be really meaningful for myself and for who I'm working with. So some of those prayers include I want my higher self there. I want my client's higher self there. I want their spirit guides and helpers there. So in my mind, we have kind of a collective that's working together. When
Thing.
I do channeling, I always ask that it's coming from my client's higher self. And I will ask that it's kind of coming from them to me. But I also, interestingly enough, I see guides and the higher self all working together as a collective. So I stay kind of very open. So to me, higher self conversation always feels like it comes down. And then guides feel like they communicate over here when I am working with loved ones that have passed over, I have two guides that I call them like my bodyguards, and they stand on either side of me. And their role is to ensure that I am only open for the people that will be meaningful for my client. I want it's so important to me, especially when people are paying for my services. People are paying for this, and I want to make sure that I have the most integrity I possibly can in ensuring who comes through is the best possible person for these clients. So I have those folks to make sure that I stay protected, that they only bring in who's meant for my clients. And when I channel, it just depends. Sometimes I'm intentional around channeling only that client's higher self. And then other times when I'm in session and I'm being open, I will find that I have a lot of guides that are speaking, but I always feel like it's in conjunction with what the higher self, what I've been told is that you've got your higher self and then you've got guides and then you've got us who are like these blind boots on the ground and everyone's working together to support us, but the higher self is who is really in charge and the guides are there to help support. So I see it as an umbrella. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
How do you stay grounded? I mean, do you have office hours with all this stuff? Do you kind of shut down at certain
Yeah,
times and
I totally shut down. I I have sessions and I have session hours and then I have, sometimes I have clients that are having a hard time and want to and get in and I always find time for people. But when I'm not in session, I love being human. There was so long that I hated my life and I wanted out of off this planet and I wanted to be done here. And I've moved into this place where I just really love being human. And I used
Mhm.
to have all these rules around what I ate and all these things, and I have just moved into this place where I'm like, "I'm gonna go have some ice cream because that is a really cool experience that I get to have as a human, and when I pass over, I can't have that ice cream." Or I'm gonna go for a hike, or I'm gonna camp, or whatever it is. So I frequently will kind of shut all that off and then just focus on being human and enjoying this human experience that I get to have for a little while on this planet.
Mm. Having the human experience. Yeah, I know sometimes I know I have had to have that conversation with myself too, just about, like, I believe we choose our life and our experience here, and we choose to, to come down here to incarnate. And so I remember having the conversation with myself, be here, be in your physical body, have this experience and enjoy it, right? Because it's so easy to be off in these other places, right? But we chose this, so.
Mhm.
You have a mission to help end suffering. What are some of the other ways that you do that?
The best way I can. Yeah, absolutely. I would
Yes.
love that.
Yeah.
As someone who suffered for so long, not that I still don't have suffering at times. I'm human, so I absolutely do. But uh, it's definitely a goal of mine.
I was just gonna, yeah, say, what are some of the other ways? You have so many modalities that you use. So, what are some of the other the ways that you do help people feel better? I know you have workshops, you have classes, like you've got a bunch of things that you do. Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah, so I felt guided to offer a variety of services at different price points. So I have things that offer for free. So I have a YouTube channel and the Facebook. I go on live once a week and do mini energy work and mini little readings for the week just to kind of help people feel their best. I also offer monthly group energy clearings, and they're intentionally kept low cost, $11.11 for an hour of energy work that's part of a group. And I've got a book coming, which, very much depends on what the publisher, I guess, wants to charge for it. But there's a book coming out in November. And then I have one on one sessions. And the intention is to help as many people as possible wherever they're at. There's lots of people that follow, and I'll get messages from them just to say, "Thank you. You have no idea how much I appreciate this. I don't have the money to do a one on one with you, but hopefully maybe one day I will." Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And then I have, people that really love doing those one on ones sessions with me. And I love offering this variety. And that was something I felt guided to do early on is that, Laura, I got this message. You're here to help the masses. So here are ways that you can help the masses. When I started the Facebook page, it was just like any other business page. And I felt this call to share positive posts throughout the day because Facebook and social media can get negative. So it's like, okay, well, what can I put out there that's going to be positive that people might scroll across and see? And I remember being so excited when I had 200 followers. I was like, oh my gosh, 200 people are following me. I don't even know these people. It's the coolest thing. And
Mhm.
then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I just, I have people all the time who will message me and say, how did you get so many followers? And honestly, I think it's when it's tied to your mission, the people just come. I've not done anything to attract them other than how can I be of service and how can I post
Mhm.
positive content to help people. That's it. That's all I've done. And I think if it's tied to your mission and purpose, then the people will show up.
Yeah. The beings that are a vibrational match to you are attracted to you, right?
Yep.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, do you want to talk about your 7-day practice that you offer by email?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. That because that's a free offering. I totally didn't even bring that up. Yes. So I have a 7-day email series. So every day for 7 days, you get someone gets an email to their inbox that's all about shifting their vibration. The book is about how to shift your vibration because when we move our vibration, things like I mentioned before, where if you're struggling with alcohol, things like that, like I was, when you move that vibration up, you no longer are a vibrational match for some of the things. I was a workaholic. I would work, 80 hours a week and then I would drink and then pass out and start over every single day. And there came this point when it just wasn't a vibrational match. Thank goodness, because that's a terrible way to live. So the series is all this many little things that someone can do, and it's meant to be easy. I really believe that spirit wants these things to be easy for us. It's not meant to be hard. It's not meant to be complicated. It's meant to help you raise your vibration. And then the beautiful thing is that things will fall away that don't match your vibration anymore. So as you go up, the stuff that doesn't match anymore falls away, and then beautiful things that are even better flow in because you're at a higher vibrational and this awesome stuff starts flowing in. And that's what the book is about. That's what the series is about. It's just help people get going on that stuff. I've had a lot of positive feedback. There's people messaging me to tell me like this is really wonderful. It helps, and I have intentionally put a story in every single email because I don't want it to just sound like a textbook. I want it to be fun. I want everybody to know like Hot Mess Express Laura here has been there. This has been very helpful to me. Let me share it with you, and hopefully it'll help you too.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I love this reality that you bring to it, right? Rather than spiritual perfection and being, you know, all put together and I've been floating on the planet for X amount of years, right? I love this version that, the story can be messy. That's okay.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah.
It took me a
Welcome.
while to get there because
Right?
I did want to do everything perfectly. I did. I was doing absolutely everything. I was reading on these books on how it's supposed to look like to be. If you want to be intuitive, you need to eat like this. If you want to be intuitive, I'm not saying those things didn't help me. They did. But there also came this point where it just started hitting me. I will love myself more if I'm
Mm.
not trying to be perfect. And love holds a much higher vibration. That can elevate our vibration to love ourselves being messy, to love ourselves being, you know, hormonally challenged during perimenopause, and we can love ourselves through all these little bits and pieces. Uh, yeah, and I'm really loving this new phase of life. I have a workshop starting in July. It's 6 months where it's all about embracing your human and embracing the messiness and loving yourself because it finally occurred to me that if I can love messy, because remember, I'm a Virgo. Virgos are very organized and perfectionists. And if I can love myself just as I am when I'm messy, even when I'm messy, that actually holds a higher vibration of trying to pretend to have it together all the time.
Absolutely. Yes. I love the way you just said that. Oh, that's beautiful. I'd love if within the boundaries of client confidentiality, do you have some stories you can share of experiences that you've seen with your clients? Maybe you worked with people and they had a certain kind of shift that it was like the aha moment or something that you basically witnessed a transformation of how this works and changes lives.
I feel like every session starts that way. Most sessions, I have people that have sessions consistently, but I also have a lot of people that um or find themselves in a place of struggle. And a lot of times, especially in the United States, going to an energy person is typically someone's last resort. Like they've tried all the other things. They've tried medication, they've tried all these things to help themselves, and then going to pay somebody that they don't know and see them virtually, which because my stuff's all virtual, so you're not even going to my shop, you're trusting this person that you don't know. So I think it takes a lot. So sometimes I frequently see people who have never done this before and are really, really struggling and really, really hurting. And we hop on, I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I always ask that, even though I'm already connected to their energy and I know exactly already how it's going. But I'll ask them, hey, how's it going? And they just go, I don't know why, but I am going to start crying. I'm like, it's okay. Your body is starting to release already. And I might have someone just hysterically crying and they'll start sharing what they're navigating. And people are
Yeah.
navigating all sorts of things. They're navigating breakups, they're navigating divorces, loss of jobs. They are navigating, honestly, just transition and the fact that they're awakening. And awakening when you don't know which that's happening can be really hard because you start to let go of your old version of self that you may have held on to for 39 years, like yours truly, and you're letting this go. And awakenings can be really amazing, but they're also incredibly hard. When this
Mhm.
journey started, I was a director at a corporation. I was over 3 states. I had a great paying job and I was married. I had a lovely home on acreage out in the country. And then the awakening happened, and we know what happens then. Everything starts falling apart. This can be really, really hard. And so I have people coming to me, and I feel like every time I have a session, I have these wonderful guides that are helping through me, helping clients understand why this is happening. I have people come to me that want to start a spiritual business but are afraid to get started or don't know how to get started. And then their guides are coming through and going, here, try this next step. And then they'll book another session. And just watching that transformation come through, it's the coolest thing to watch people. Those first sessions are usually full of suffering, and
Mhm.
then every month they come back and they are thriving more and more and getting more in their power. Oh, it's awesome. I love seeing it.
I'm curious, what do you believe is happening on the planet energetically right now? I think here in the US, we're experiencing
Lots of
some
turmoil.
change.
Yeah. Yeah. I think overall in the collective, what many, many people are experiencing is 2025 was filled with a lot of endings for people. And I found that across the board, people were so emotional by the end of 2025 because there were so many endings. And endings could look like loss of, family, friends, jobs, even where someone was living. But also, endings are the shedding of an old identity, old programming, this idea of, I feel like we live a lot of life like this, like a horse with blinders, and then the awakening pulls those off. And there was lots of people experiencing that. And that's very hard on our ego. Our ego has a really hard time with that. So then when we've moved into 2026, what I've been seeing, not just with myself, but also with clients, that vibration of new beginnings. We're shifting into this brand new beginning. And there's a lot of people that have, and the way I am given the image is you can think of almost like a line in the sand, and you've got people still got have one foot in the old and one foot in the new. And a lot of I have been when I'm doing the weekly energy readings that I do on my Facebook page and the YouTube channel, a lot of them this year have been around encouraging people to take that foot off the old and finally push it all the way over into the new, to embrace those new beginnings, because it gets really, really uncomfortable to keep holding on to the old, especially when this is crumbling beneath your feet. And so you're just getting forced over, if that makes sense. So that
Mhm.
is what I've been seeing with clients. That's what I've been seeing when I do those weekly readings. People are in the chat going, yes, that's exactly what's happening to me. And a lot of what we've been doing weekly has been energetically helping people. And sometimes the messages are around helping people embrace new beginnings, helping people step into their power, helping people have the confidence it takes. It takes a lot of confidence to let go of what doesn't
Mhm.
align anymore. So those are the things I've been seeing in the United States. While I haven't really dove into the United States specifically, there definitely is that energy of a shakeup. And I have gotten messages before that, whether you call them light workers or whatever, there's all these terms for those of us who really feel that we're channels of light. I have gotten the message before. We are all strategically placed around the world, whether it's the United States or all over, because we naturally channel light, and we are here to help anchor it in. And whether we realize it or not, we just go about our business. But every time we do things that are helpful to our soul, and we uplift ourselves and we feel really good and we feel positive, every time we do that, our light radiates that much further. We become more open energetically, and more light can be channeled through us. And that's why so many spiritual teachers talk about like your real purpose is just to go be happy. Like, go be happy, please. That's why, because we
Mm.
can channel that much more light into this planet. And while there's all this ruckus happening all over, we help channel that energy and help with the collective, whether we realize we're doing it or not.
Do you think people are, from what you've seen in your practice with your clients over the last several years, do you think there's more of an awakening, more of a shift, or more of a curiosity or openness to these kind of alternative ways of healing ourselves?
I feel like it's actually kind of both, honestly. I think there's people like me that had an instantaneous awakening. I left that healer, and I remember going to my husband at the time and saying, "I don't know what's happened, but I know I can't go back." Well, whoever whoever Laura was 2 hours ago is not the same person anymore. Um, but I also think there's a lot of people that they're moving into more of a gradual awakening. And I've also heard other women talk about, interestingly enough, perimenopause seems to be a trigger for a lot of women and moving into their power. Um, and I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it definitely aligns for me. That was definitely when I had this awakening where I'm like, oh, what am I doing with my life? I am literally working myself to death and trying to drink myself to death. I'm literally trying to just be done here, and for what? I can be I hopefully there's something that, God has in store for me that I can be doing instead. So I feel like it could be a combination of the 2 where there's some, like, abrupt awakenings, and then I think there's a lot of people that are just, moving into that, and whether it's out of curiosity or maybe, they find themselves drawn to podcasts like this, and they walk away and start seeing angel numbers all over the place or whatever, however it works. Whatever, we need the light on this planet, so however we get it is fine.
Yes, right. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely think that perimenopause and menopause has us shift our perspective on many things, right? And the
Mhm.
people pleasing seems to kind of start fading away.
Yes.
um, with that phase, I think we're living a little more and caring a little less about what people think about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember, there's a book that came out, not that is it Age Like a Girl? And she talks about it. She's just like, there's literally a rewiring that's going on in your brain.
absolutely.
You're literally shifting and rewiring. And so while it's really uncomfortable, it gets a lot better on the other side. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, we're facing the process of a changing identity, right? We're definitely um morphing into something different. And that's okay. As
Uh-huh.
long as we know that's what's happening, and we can do things to help ourselves through the process, whatever that looks like. Part of that, I think, is just entering into our spirituality and really exploring that, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. I think what happens is whether we realize it or not, we start to listen to our own soul. We start to listen to the inner spirit. Whether we realize that's what's happening or not, that's what I think starts to happen is we stop the people pleasing and hearing all the other noise, and we start tuning into our own spirit and letting that be our guide.
Mhm.
And I don't know
Right.
how many times I've thought, why wasn't someone teaching me this when I was 5?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some women at that phase will go through an identity crisis. Like, who am I
Mhm.
now? Like, my kids are getting older or whatnot a lot of times, and having to really face ourselves, not even knowing who we are. And then really with the physical changes and the chemistry changes and everything else, that's just compounded on that. I think it's the perfect time to dive into our spiritual nature.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Start asking the big questions.
Mhm. Yes. Start
Yeah.
asking the questions and following the breadcrumbs, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Keep going. I have one real curious question because, well, I would ask this question possibly of anybody, but I'm particularly interested in asking you this because it sounds like your awakening was pretty rapid. Now, how did family, friends, and people close to you, what did that look like? And what did you have to navigate? Because that is also not another easy part of this journey.
Absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah. Um, so I'm from rural Indiana, so which is a area where everyone goes to church, and if you don't go to church, people look down on you. And I actually always had growing up, I had a really strong relationship with God or spirit, but just over the course of all the stuff I was going through as an adult, I got to a place where I wasn't even sure I believed anymore. And I was going to church because that was what my husband at the time wanted to do every Sunday. Sat with his family and all the things. So then I have this awakening, and I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I'm seeing angel numbers 30 times a day. The lyrics of songs are, they're just kind of in the background, and then one line will come in really loud, and it's the answer to something I'm thinking about, and you guys are laughing, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. It
Yep.
starts getting
Yep.
real wild.
Exactly.
You look at your phone and you're just scrolling Instagram, and it's something encouraging you that it's all going to be okay. It's such a wild time, and I remember not understanding why I was seeing 11111 50 times a day and having absolutely no idea what that was, and Googling them, trying to understand. And then finally it dawned on me to Google. Well, it's just Google knows everything. Let me Google that. It was so so my husband at the time, he's even though we're not married any longer, he's a wonderful person, and eventually everything kind of he started to believe me, but at first he's just like, "What is this? Is this some sort of devil worshiping? Or is this?"
Yep.
And of course, I was kind of afraid too. I remember having a really vivid dream that I needed to get a black crystal to wear around my neck. And of course, at that in my mind, black crystals is witchcraft and negative and bad. And I was there it was really scary, and finally I looked it up, and it was like, "No, that's to protect your energy." And I still wear that crystal to this day because it's across my heart chakra, and, once I understood, I went out and got it, but at the time, it was like, "What is going on? I don't understand." And my mom, was also similar to my husband at the time, very kind of like, "What is this? What is going on with Laura?" And afraid. When I started trying, especially when I'm trying to tell them about energy clearing and how I don't need to touch somebody and I could just clear their energy and I can feel it, they're just like, "What is this? What is she talking about?" But my mom beautifully, she started researching it, and she's like, "That's amazing." And so she went and got it. She's a Reiki master too because she wanted to learn how to do it too. Yes. And then I have found, so even though I was the first one to awaken in my group and I wasn't necessarily pushing anything, what I found is that my vibration led to their awakening. So whether they
Awesome.
fully awakened or they partially awakened or they became accepting wherever they're at in that, people started opening their eyes started opening around me. And I think it's because as you awaken and your vibration shifts and changes, I think it's a catalyst for others many times. And so that's eventually what happened. But at first, I did not speak to anyone about what was happening. I didn't know, and thankfully I had the healer I originally went to didn't mind being a mentor for me because
Yeah.
who was I going to
Important.
talk to about this? I didn't even understand what was happening. And then I found another person through a meditation app that somehow we got connected, and she very kindly offered to do a phone call with me, and I can't remember, I want to say she's from New York or somewhere, and we just had one conversation one time, but it was exactly what I needed. And she just told me, "Your husband will either wake up or he won't, but either way it's going to be fine." And I just remember like, okay, okay. So it was wild. It was really wild and it was hard and emotional, but at the same time so exciting, but feeling like you can't tell anyone. It was hard. And I'm glad you brought that up because I do have clients that I think see me because they just want to have someone to talk to about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a huge part, right? The support and really a large part of why this podcast exists so that people don't have to feel alone in their journeys through this stuff. And I think just listening to your story and how, when the student's ready, the teacher appears was just in magic,
Mhm.
form for you. It really was. And I hope that for everyone as they embark on their journey, but it is, in my experience, has been quite rare to have
Mhm.
that. So you've really truly been blessed the way it unfolded for you, and I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, what are some of the practical things that we can do as we begin to ride this wave?
Yeah, I think the two most and there's lots of things that obviously we can do, but the two most important things that I have found for myself personally is grounding on a regular basis, especially for clear sentient people. We need that extra support.
Mhm.
We collect all sorts of energy, and for anyone who is watching and isn't familiar with clear sentience is a way that our intuition can work. There's different ways that our intuition works through all of our different senses, but clairsentience is you feel the energy of a room. You feel like you absorb the energy of others. You feel fine, and then you go to the grocery store, and now you're crying, and you don't understand why, or your anxiety gets crazy when you're in a crowded place. More than likely, you're clairsentient. Clairsentient people I think I think a lot of people that struggle with addiction are clairsentient because they feel so bad and don't even understand why or how to do anything about it. Grounding is a lovely way to help clear the energy, especially if you ask Mother Earth, please clear my energy. She will gladly help you out. Um, that's a wonderful way. And I think the other thing is to really embark on a gratitude practice, to be mindful of all the ways you're blessed and give thanks 100 times a day for all the ways you're blessed because you have the grounding that'll help with your energy. And then you have the gratitude practice, which will raise your vibration. And if someone only has time for those two things, those are the things that I recommend to do to help yourself through this because it can be a really rough go until you understand how to best navigate it.
Mm. Yeah.
And there's many ways that people can ground themselves as well. It can be kicking off your shoes and going and standing on the grass. It can be, sitting on your floor and imagining, yourself connecting roots down into the ground and there's a lot of different ways and I think that you could probably just Google it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that because I didn't explain it in the practice very well, but yes, thank you for doing that. Something that I do that I also have found that really helps me on this earth journey, we can get really caught up in our own mind and forget that we can be an open channel between spirit and earth. When so I have a tendency to get really locked down, kind of go back to how I used to, it's like a program, right? It's hard to change programs and get back into this getting caught up in my thoughts. When I go, "Oh my gosh, I wanna connect. Let me get connected to spirit," or if someone's more comfortable with the term God or universe, whatever term you wanna use, I usually say God. "Let me get connected to God. Let me get connected to earth. I wanna be an open channel between these 2, so that energy, that life force energy is flowing through me." That alone can really help me to feel more relaxed and at peace. And you can do that anywhere. You can do that when you're in traffic and you feel yourself getting really tense and grumpy. You know what? I want to be connected. I'm reaching out energetically out here and I'm struggling with what I'm feeling, let me just reach out this way and reach down and be that open channel. That's going to feel the best.
Mm,
Another practice I love doing.
I love that. I also love that you brought up the gratitude and doing even like a gratitude journal. I'm always talking about this, and I know it sounds so cliche, but it is one of the quickest ways to raise your vibration.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
really get yourself out of that mood. And you know what? If you're writing it down and you keep track of it, when you're having a bad day, you have something to reflect on about all the things that bring you joy and that you're grateful for. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree. I talk about it all the time. And I'm sure I'm always like in my workshops, I'm like, I'm sure people are sick of me saying this, but I really can't emphasize it enough. I can be in such a dark place where I am feeling so sorry for myself or caught in my mind. And then I'm like, wait a second. You're breathing, you're walking around, you're on earth, you're having a really cool experience for the most part. Maybe not in this last 5 minutes, but for the most part, this has turned into a really cool experience. Let's give thanks. I got food in my fridge, I got a roof over my head, I've got electricity, I've got amazing clients. You are blessed and abundant. And I just start reminding myself of that. And you're so right. It will shift your energy within seconds. It's it's the best.
Mm, I love it.
I have a beautiful 15-year-old daughter who gets pretty frustrated with me when I point out all the things to be grateful for in a day. Sometimes I think, being stuck with me in the car on the ride to school is the most frustrating part of her day.
It's
You
funny.
know what though? I'm laughing. I'm also kind of laughing at myself because if I'm in a mood and someone wanted to sit around and tell me all the ways I should be grateful, I'm going to tell you what, that would probably trigger me more. Yeah, I got to get my own gratitude. Thank you very much. I don't need your gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah, right, right. So
Yeah,
you and my daughter get along really well.
I know. We just go be in a mood together, and then I'm like, okay, it's time to snap out of it. Let's be grateful.
Yeah, yeah. I'm married to a very wonderful, sweet, kind Frenchman. And I don't know how much you know about the French culture, but I often share gratitude with him as well. So many things to be grateful for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'd love to touch a little bit more on your book. I know it's not coming out till the end of the year, but can you talk a little bit about it and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah. So interestingly, when I first had my awakening in 2019, I continued to see that healer often. I was carrying 39 years of junk that was not just mine, but also other people's, and I just needed a lot of support. And I mean, what triggered me calling her and booking the first session is that I had been contemplating, and this was kind of a last effort to try to see if I can change things. So she was wonderfully helpful, and she was very, very intuitive. And early on she's like, "You're going to have a huge following and you're going to write a lot of books." And I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Cuz back then I was still a corporate executive, and I was just like, "I don't know what you're talking about because I am following the money, and the money is where I'm at." And so she's just like, "No, that's what you're gonna do." So my grandma, who has passed over, she wrote many, many books. And so I've always loved, I read lots of books. I've always just really w- loved books, bookstores and libraries. My first jobs were in public libraries. I've always loved books. So anyway, so a few years ago, I just felt the call, and I could tell my guides, everybody was like, time to write, time to write. So I started writing it. Um, and I put together the book proposal. So with nonfiction books, you don't necessarily write the whole thing. You write a book proposal, and then if you want to submit that to a publisher, that's what you would submit for nonfiction. So I got frustrated though and put it away for a year and a half. And then last summer, I said, "What are you doing? Submit the book proposal." Ding dong, you've been sitting on this for an hour, year and a half. Submit the book proposal. And there was a publisher that was interested, and so that's been really fun. I wanted to have a publishing partner, um, to help me. with all the aspects of it. So Hierophant Publishing took it on, and so that's been a really fun journey, and they've been guiding me and helping me. But the purpose of the book is to help people raise their vibration so that they feel better. That's the whole point of it. Every chapter I start off with a story of how awful my life was at the time or what I was, hot mess story, and then it moves into a practice, and then
Mm,
every chapter actually also has a guided meditation that goes with it. So
beautiful.
people can go to my website and listen to a guided meditation that also is Reiki infused. So because Reiki and energy work was what changed my life the most. Because as I was raising my vibration, I had all this junk I was still carrying and needed help with getting rid of. And those things together, I feel, are what helped me so much. So again, doing my best to make this accessible to everyone. People can go to the website, they'll be able to access a meditation for each chapter that will assist them with whatever that chapter is about.
Fantastic.
It's interesting that you talk about how Reiki was a catalyst and a great healing power because Reiki also saved my life
Mm,
in a literal way,
mhm.
very literal way. And I'll let you read that book.
Yes.
Or we can just have a side chat.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, and more than once. And so I am deeply grateful to carry the honor of bringing Reiki into people's lives, and I think we probably all feel that way because we're all three kind of
Yeah.
in that practice. Very
Absolutely.
interesting. The amount of stories that I hear about this are pretty powerful. Yeah.
They really are. And in the United States, it's considered just it's kind of a weird woo-woo thing. But it's been around forever. It has helped so many people for so long. And honestly, like if everyone had their chakras cleared, this would be a much better planet.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because it is being used in medical facilities now. It's being used in hospitals. I was researching something and just happened to see that UC Davis had a Reiki program that they were offering to the nurses. I was this was a few years ago and I thought, wow, this has come such a long way and there's actual research on it now and I just am blown away by that.
That is
I kind of
amazing.
yeah, I
Mhm.
had a spontaneous Reiki emergence 30 years ago. I'd never heard about it at all. And now it's being taught to nurses. What an amazing thing. I just love it.
It's
Yeah.
also really, really great for people who you were talking about clairsentient. So people who are highly empathic or clairsentient. I was one of the reasons it was suggested to me to take some Reiki training to understand what's my energy and what is
Yeah.
somebody else's. So
Yes.
helpful and so important, and I'm
It
so glad I
absolutely
did, really. Yeah, it's such
it
a beautiful
absolutely is.
yeah.
I agree with you.
What wisdom I know that you shared a lot of wisdom and some practical tools, but for anybody who's just now embarking on a spiritual journey or a spiritual awakening, what wisdom can you share?
When I think back to when I embarked on mine, I can see how hard I was on myself. I was so excited and I was reading all the books and watching all the YouTubes and all of that was very, very fun. I don't regret any of it. But when I felt like I couldn't connect to my guides, when I felt like um, you know, just things would happen with my human and I felt like I should be above that, but that shouldn't happen to me more. I shouldn't be sad. I shouldn't be angry. Spiritual people aren't angry. I had all these ideas of what that looked like.
Mm,
My bit of wisdom would say to not be so hard on yourself, to embrace you're a human. And it helps me to think of this as my human. I've got my spirit inside me, and then this is my human. And my human sometimes just has a really hard time. And sometimes my human falls back into the old programs and depression. And sometimes I have really heightened anxiety, and whether I know what it's from or not, the more loving I can be to this human, the faster we're going to move through it. I don't have to be so hard on myself. If especially back then when I couldn't connect to my guides, and it was just, I would cry. I was just like, I'm never going to be intuitive. I would just cry about it. It will be okay. You just love your human through it. And when the time comes, all these little beautiful pieces will snap into place. So that's what I feel like I would like to share. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. I
Really.
really like that, love your human through it. That is so
Yes.
sweet.
Mhm.
That's really sweet. And I often recommend to people to quit shooting all over themselves because it is really just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not good for us.
No, it's not. And it helps. It's interesting because, you can get really caught up in the negative thoughts. And the negative thoughts aren't really us. They're old programs, or you might even
Right.
be picking it up from other people. So it helps me to separate by saying my human is having a hard time. Because if I say
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time, it's like I take ownership of, not that we don't want to take ownership, but it's like I become that depressed version or that anxious version. But if instead I go, my human is having a hard time, there's something about
Right.
that where I can offer myself more kindness and compassion than I can if I say I'm having a hard time. There's something about that shift where I can just recognize that my spirit is fine, but my human is having a hard day. And so I will phrase it that way. I find that that somehow makes me more kind and more compassionate to myself for some reason.
Yes. Well
That's
said.
a good reminder. I really love that.
Yeah, me too.
So, Laura, this has been a great
Mhm.
conversation. How can our listeners find you?
So you can go to my website, sacredsoul444.com. Everything that you could possibly want to know is there. You can contact me. You can sign up for workshops, one on ones. And then, if someone is interested in the YouTubes and the Facebook Lives that I do, the handle is the same. So, Sacred Soul 444. You can look it up on Facebook and YouTube as well. So, I try to offer a lot of different ways to support people in their spiritual journey. So, look for me there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and include that information as well in the description.
Mm.
So,
Thank you.
so to our listeners, thank you for stepping into this space with us. If you feel nourished or inspired by the Veil Between Lives, please subscribe, like, share, comment, or leave a review. It helps these conversations reach the souls meant to find them.
Mhm. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.